Hello and welcome to another Fox 411 where we find out what's going on in the community. And basically, we're here to get educated about whatever we needed to get educated about. And I'll tell you what, there's some good education when it comes to our sheriff here, Dave Hepperly. And then also from Crisis Intervention, it's Mary Ingham. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Gary.
Good
Hello.
to have you here. What's that, Dave?
I said hello.
Oh, hello. Yes. Yeah. So here we are in the late September. We're hoping you either watch this or listen to it as our little podcast in our 411 here. It's October is coming up here, and it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is about the only thing I get to talk to you guys about. That's a shame. You know, we get what? I think, don't we do something in April? And then we do something in October.
Correct.
Yes. So April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And
That's right.
6 months later, we're back to talk to you about Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Can we do something in the summer that'll change it up for something positive? Can we do that?
You know what? I would love to come back to you next summer and tell you that we don't have anything more to talk about because everyone is getting along. People are playing nice.
Yeah.
And we live in a perfect world. So
we certainly do.
Let's pencil that in for July of 2026.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Domestic Violence Awareness Month, obviously, it is what it is. And I don't know, Mary, you want to kind of kick us off and why we do this awareness every year?
Sure. So Sheriff Hepperly and I are keenly aware of domestic violence every day of the year. And there's a lot of people and organizations out there that obviously work with victims or individuals and families that are directly impacted by domestic violence. October is the month designated nationally, though, to really focus extra effort on education and awareness. And Crisis Intervention Service has been around since 1977, providing crisis services and supportive services, community education and prevention programming. But it never ceases to amaze me how I think we cast a pretty wide net. Whenever I go to talk to a new group or I'm in a new social setting, there's always people that don't know for sure what we do or haven't heard of us. And I think some of that is maybe along the way they've heard of us, but I think sometimes people think, oh, I don't really want to, I'm not going to let that imprint in my brain because that's never going to impact me. We know that 1 in 3 individuals will be the victim of domestic violence in their lifetime. So,
man, that's high.
It is high. And that includes men and women. It includes children who witness violence. And because of that statistic alone, I would hazard to guess everyone listening or viewing today knows somebody. We all know somebody. So our goal for this month is to make sure that we don't necessarily want to make sure that everyone's an expert on domestic violence and intervention. We want to make sure that everyone knows where to send a friend.
Right. And they need to know that. And by the way, we're scrolling for those of you, if you're just listening to this, cishelps.org. Call Crisis Intervention Service here in Mason City. Call the sheriff's office. Dave, what's your intake on all of this? Obviously, you're the other one that gets involved with this where you see it all the time.
Right. I guess the most important thing, if someone is in a situation where they need help, obviously, if they need immediate help, 911, that's your call. For the sheriff's office number for our dispatch, it's 421-3000, 641-421-3000. Even if you have a question or you don't know who to talk to and you want to reach out because you're in a situation or a friend is, we want you to call those numbers. Our goal is to help. And we can't do that if we don't have information for victims. It's a big leap sometimes to make a call for help. And we just encourage people. We want to, as a coalition, which Mary's group and the sheriff's office and law enforcement and all the different entities that comprise our coalition, Domestic Violence Coalition, we're here to get people plugged into the help that they need. You know, if it's the immediate law enforcement need, obviously we're there. And at that point, then we determine who else can we bring in and help out. We just want to make sure that people don't go away from any situation feeling like they've either been the situation minimized or there's no help available. I think as a coalition, I think that's what we're most proud of, is that we do have a lot of people that in groups that belong to the coalition, that we're all focused on making sure that people get the help they need.
Well, and I think what's key too, Mary, you can touch upon this, is you don't want people calling you too late. I mean,
Correct.
before somebody's hospitalized or even death for that matter. Which, by the way, as long as I brought that up, let's talk about that for a second for your event that you have coming up, the Say My Name, right?
So we have an event on October 3rd called Remember My Name, and it's designed to honor the life and memory of Iowans that have lost their life to domestic violence. So we will basically say the names of local victims, talk about what led up to their homicide. And one of the things that always captures my heart every year is, as we talk about people's stories, most of the time people have done every single thing that deputies in our office, everything that we think they should do, leave the abusive partner, file for a protection order. And at the end of the day, what we see oftentimes is that people that use power and control in their relationships, when they feel like they've lost control, when their partner leaves them, when their partner gets a protection order, they don't get the message. They escalate the violence.
Right.
And one troubling trend that we have seen in Iowa is in 2021, we saw 21 individuals killed as a result of domestic violence. When we look at data from 2024, I shouldn't say data, I should say human lives. There were 35 individuals killed.
Even more. Wow.
Which is a 52% increase. And that's huge. And the way, when I look at domestic violence homicides, they are 100% preventable. And when I say they're 100% preventable, it's the person doing harm that has 100% of the power to prevent that. Victims are doing everything right, and ultimately it's the abusers that are making the choices to end someone's life.
I think you both can probably answer this, but I've interviewed you guys so many times. I try to think of some new things, that crosses my mind. But when it comes to the victim, because sometimes it does start with a phone call, correct? Mm-hmm. Am I
Yep.
correct in saying that? It starts with a phone call, whether it's to the sheriff's office, whether it's to crisis intervention, and you both can expand on this a little bit. I would think that victim is, first of all, very scared. Because they don't know what's about to happen and the outcome and all that. And because of their fear, they're very vague sometimes, I would think. Or maybe they're blunt. I don't know, whatever. Can you both kind of expand on that? And of course, you both are professionals that your team is going to ask the right questions to get more information out.
So I'll go first. I would say every caller is completely different, and yes to every possible scenario you could think of. Some people call very meek, timid. Some people are forced to call by friends or family. And some people have all the courage in the world, and they just share everything. So one of the shifts I've made in my language in the recent years, I used to call myself a first responder to domestic violence. And I've come to believe that that's not true. I believe people call crisis intervention when other things in their life have failed. Typically, family knows before we know, friends know before we know, coworkers, people at church, neighbors. I think oftentimes, I think society sees us. They see law enforcement as first responders, and oftentimes we're the last people to know, because all of these other systems that oftentimes have protected people in their life haven't been able to. So we're going to reach out to this group. We receive calls every day with someone starting with, I don't know if this is abuse, but
but
and typically if you're starting a sentence with, I don't know if this is abuse, it is.
yeah.
It is. I haven't had a call yet that was like, no, that's fine. Everything's fine. So
Well, it's domestic violence, but I mean, it could be verbal abuse, maybe.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be verbal abuse. And, we also, financial abuse is a huge tactic to keep people in relationships.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Right.
Dave, you want to expand on that on your end?
Well, I just say that most of what Mary's already said here. I echo that as far as what we see, as far as the law enforcement end of it. Our first call is usually into the dispatch center if it's an emergency call, or even on the regular line. Could be a lot of different things being either said or not said at that point. It's not uncommon for us to get a call. There's an emergency situation where someone just calls 911 and they leave that line open. Our dispatch professionals in there, they get a lot of training and firsthand experience from these calls. It comes in various ways. Information about a domestic violence situation could be, like I said, an open line. There's a situation going on, emergency situation. So our dispatchers, they pick up on what they can get from that open line.
Sure.
A lot of times it's information could be from a friend, relative saying, hey, could you go check on this person because we believe there's something going on. We're not sure. And we get as much information as we can. And that is relayed to our deputies that respond. So there's just an unlimited amount of information that goes into a response as far as law enforcement going to do a check, or if we're going into a situation where we know there's violence actively going on. So our response is tailored off of the information that we get from those phone calls.
Sheriff, can it well, this is a tough question, but because I want to get into a little bit about repeat offenders, and we'll get to that in a second. But I'd like to ask, I mean, does sometimes that one visit over that one phone call, can it settle stuff down?
I will say my experience that is possible, but we do get a lot of return calls that people, we have a situation that reoccurs. Sometimes it could be soon after the initial call, or it could be months. The time spans vary greatly. What we do see, and I guess looking back on this last year for the sheriff's office, we handled, we're rural law enforcement, but we did handle 25 cases, actively investigated 25 cases of reported domestic violence in this last year. What I do see when you talk about repeat offenses is that a stat that really sticks out to me every year is once we've made an arrest and there's a no contact order put in place to protect the party, in this last year, we had over 30 cases, individual cases with many more charges based off those 30 different no contact order violations reported to just the Saragota County Sheriff's Office. So that tells me that we have offenders, we're trying to keep them accountable, but they are reoffending in other ways by breaking these no contact orders. And by that, what we see is that that's very dangerous, because the initial arrest hasn't kept them from trying to reoffend or, doing something against the victim. So that's alarming to us, that it keeps, a lot of these people keep reoffending. So in my eyes as sheriff, and wanting people to be safe, that we need to even do more to keep these people accountable. And
obviously,
reoffending.
I don't know, Mary, in your opinion, does the penalty fit the crime? Is it should be more than what it is? Whatever the penalty is, I don't know. It's various. I realize various penalties.
Yeah, I mean, what we see, what research tells us, people much smarter than myself, tell us that the biggest deterrent is that immediate arrest and swift consequences. And, for some people, I think a handful of people, that immediate arrest, going to jail for a night, might be enough to shake someone into like, okay, I've got to learn some new ways. And oftentimes, and I'm not trying to make excuse, but many times people that are using power and control in their relationships grew up watching that in their own home.
Mm-hmm.
And it works well. I mean, it's an effective tool to keep your partner in line. So for a small part of the people, yeah, that immediate arrest and consequences helps them change. I think for others, I think what we're also looking at is typically people don't call law enforcement the first time they are abused.
Sure.
Typically what happens, it's a neighbor that calls, it's a child that calls, or it's after the victim thinks that they are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the first hit. It's not the first slap. I know many times when I talk to victims, they will say, well, they've never hurt me before. I mean, they've drugged me across the living room by my hair.
Right.
So I think we're often, again, after several incidences of abuse or when we get called, and I think the people using harm are the ones so often, so many of the resources in the community are for victims because we want to keep them safe. I do think there needs to be more to, number one, hold offenders accountable, and then teach them new ways to deal with their power and control issues.
You mentioned it a little earlier on. What do you do? Because you want people to see, how many times have we been saying, if you see something, say something? Mm-hmm. Do people, is it okay for neighbors and friends to call and talk to you? Or because, just like you said, the victim probably doesn't call right away. It's got to escalate before they make that call.
Yeah.
But yeah, just something comfortable for all of the listeners out there that are neighbors and friends of people that are suspicious, maybe.
So sometimes we'll get a call from a friend, a family member, a neighbor saying, hey, can you call Susie? I think this is happening.
Okay.
And we don't cold call people.
Yeah.
Just because while we know those are good intention calls, but what we do tell people is if you can share our number with that person, let them know that we are here, we're confidential, we're free, we can provide all of these supports and services. But again, number one, people are going to confide in their friends and families first. So we do provide people with some tips on how to be a good support person to someone that's going through an abusive relationship. But the thing about if you see something, say something. People seem to have no problem calling law enforcement if someone has a loud muffler or the kids next door are having a fun rock and roll party.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to domestic violence, people are like, ooh, that's a family issue. We don't want to get involved. But it's one of the most dangerous things that can happen in your neighborhood. So absolutely get involved. Worst case scenario, nothing's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you've had, both of you could probably say that you've had that friend or neighbor. Bring them down. Don't even make the phone call. Just bring them down to the office and say, would you please talk to this, my friend here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think, and I don't want to assume everything here, but maybe Sheriff, can you, out of 10 victim situations, how many of them are addictive or addiction related? Out of 10,
I would say little over half.
Okay.
We see drug or alcohol is part of the equation, I guess. And it doesn't excuse the violence, but it is part of the investigation that we usually see. I would say over half, if you want a number, 6, 7 sometimes. that there's some drug or alcohol
Sure.
use as an equation there of at least that particular incident.
And to expand on that, let's say that someone is arrested for domestic violence and it was alcohol related or drug related. Do you have the authority, or what is the penalty? Can they actually go into treatment from there, or is that still that's a a thing that they have to decide on their own?
That's usually a court ordered
Court ordered.
part of the culmination of the case. A lot of times it could be court ordered if there's the indication through the case that would be something that would help the perpetrator to change, then that could be ordered. A lot of times as part of the judgment and sentence, we'll see that in there for treatment options. We would hope that if someone would be, say, arrested, and that would hopefully be something that they would realize on their own if they're having issues and the violence is part of their addiction or their use anyway, that hopefully they would see that on their own. But sometimes the courts have to demand that, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Get the treatment and evaluation that's needed to hope that it won't happen again.
Hey, before we wrap things up, I would like to maybe end on kind of a happy note. Some stories that you can share that people change their life around. I mean, they went through I'm not shy about my recovery. 19 years of sobriety here now. Thank goodness I never had any violence involved with my addiction that I had. But I'm happy to share stories, and it's and how people have changed their life. And do you get to see some of those real life stories of how they changed their life around, or some guy changed his life around and you don't hear about the violence you used to do, and so forth and so on? Even Mary, for some of the victims and how they've been able to change their life around.
So this is a good segue. We have an event on October 3rd, Remember My Name.
Yep.
And our guest speaker that day is a woman who endured horrific violence. She will talk about her own struggles with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
She will talk about how the abusive relationship and her addiction impacted her children.
Mm-hmm.
And then she will talk about how her life is today.
Wow.
She's a person, when you see her, she is the strongest, most confident, beautiful woman you will ever imagine, who has endured horrific violence. And that is the beautiful part of what we get to see every day. We see people at their lowest moments.
Sure.
And then we get to see them day by day, month by month, become stronger, more courageous, and ultimately take their life back.
Mm-hmm.
And live their best life, which I think is the ultimate form of recovery.
You bet. And Sheriff, do you ever have those guys out there that had a checkered past and now they want to come up and give you a hug?
That happens frequently, and
Okay.
both sides of this equation. Over the years, doing this in Sarasota County and law enforcement for the last 4 decades, I've had countless conversations with victims, perpetrators. The victims will remind me at times of the stories of, hey, do you remember coming to the house, that situation? I just want to say thank you. Whole different variety of things, but some of them have been, we had a rough time there and we had some abuse. I endured, my partner, we got help. We got things figured out. It's been better. We haven't been back into that, that darkness of what the previous relationship was like. And like I said, both sides, I've had people say, hey, I made some dumb choices. I did the violence against my partner and I needed to be arrested. And that was the nexus of me getting better and getting away from that. Frequently, though, it's the people that have been victims of violence that'll say, "Hey, appreciate the way that you handled our case, our situation. You got us connected with the right people, and things got better." From the initial cry for help to the healing as much as possible on the other end of it. So we hear those stories all the time, and that's really what keeps me personally charged as far as wanting to do the right thing and helping people. The stories and the feedback from later on, and it could be from years ago.
And it's so cool when you hear about support groups, helping out your whole recovery program in general. So it's certainly a better life when you can turn it all around. So Domestic Violence Awareness Month is going on for October. You said what? October 3rd?
October 3rd, Mason City Public Library, noon.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to thank you both for, first of all, everything that you guys do. I mean, I know you're a paid professional, but you guys are in the heart of it. It's just like me doing what I've done for so many years. You guys have been doing it for so many years. You have a passion, for what you do, and your passion is to help people and always be there, for people. So thank you so much for your service that you guys do. Crisis intervention, what's the phone number to call locally?
1-800-479-9071.
Okay. Sheriff, your number up there at the sheriff's office.
Yes, 641-421-3000.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, very much, and have a great turnout for your event on October 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.